Well, folks, whether you like it or not, we are back again. And I'm just kidding with you. Welcome back to another episode of Primetime Live on Jess FM and Jess TV. Thank you for joining us. And tonight we have a very special episode. We will go over a few news items and a bit more information. And then we'll jump right into a special tribute episode to the one and only Ozzy Osbourne. Born John Michael Osbourne in England. We know that he has had a prolific effect and impact within the world of music. We'll explore that, but we'll also open up the phone lines and the WhatsApp, as well as, of course, the chat room, so you can join the conversation, share your thoughts and your opinions on Ozzy Osbourne or other topics if you wish. And also, I'd love to hear some memories that you have with Ozzy's music. And maybe it was a concert that you attended. Maybe it's the first time you heard Ozzy and Black Sabbath. But in any event, of course, we want to hear what you have to say because you are a part of the conversation here as well. Now, as we continue on the show, we will talk about the life, the impact, and the legacy that he has left behind. But of course, who doesn't know Ozzy? He is a world famous singer. His name is recognized in almost every nation around the globe. And this comes from decades of really pouring his heart and his soul into his craft and his gift for entertaining. Now, some people have really been turned off by Ozzy in terms of, the negative stuff that's happened over the years. But at the end of the day, you have to understand that in the world of entertainment, just because of what you see on the onstage persona or in music videos and so forth, that may just be a character. And a lot of times, I believe that was the case with Ozzy. And it was more like a performance. And he was once quoted that getting up on the stage is like Halloween every night. So again, we'll talk about it, but don't forget that you need to be involved and share your conversations to make this happen. So again, if you're looking to call in, whether it's on WhatsApp or if you want to dial in on your cell phone, you can call area code 368-997-6741 and you can join the conversation. So again, join us live as we continue on. Now, of course, we know that there are a lot of headlines happening around the world, and we are just going to jump into a few of them tonight, and we'll get right away on to our big conversation. And of course, that is Ozzy. So we'll get back to him in just a few minutes. But let's first take a look at some of the news that's hitting the world as it is. Another celebrity that was instrumental in my growing up days back in the 80s and the 90s, of course, we're talking about the one and only Hulk Hogan. Yes, Hulk Hogan has passed away today, a very big tragedy for the world of wrestling, the WWE, and of course, all of the Hulkamaniacs around the world. The Hulk was at home, surrounded by his family. We don't know a lot of the details or the cause of death yet, but we know that an ambulance was called early this morning. And at that time, the paramedics were unable to revive him, and he has passed. Now, he had, back in May, some surgery to deal with a neck issue, but it's not believed to be related to the cause of death today. Now, people around the world are taking time to share memories and, of course, memes and other tributes to the one and only Hulk Hogan on all levels of social media. Now, if you want to talk about him as well, you're welcome to bring that up in the conversation, whether it is through text or if you want to call in and talk about Hulk Hogan as well. I know that he has played an instrumental role in the lifetime of many of us who grew up watching him when he pile drive, you know, the Macho Man Randy Savage, or when he picked up Andre the Giant and slammed him from above his head. I mean, just the incredible feats that he accomplished within the world of wrestling. But let me tell you, some people don't really believe in watching wrestling because they say it's all fake. But let me reiterate the fact that it still takes a great deal of athleticism. There is still a very high risk of injury. And I mean, it just goes on. Now, if you look back at the Hulk when he was growing up, he wasn't always this pillar of physical strength. Back in school, actually, he was bullied quite often because he was overweight, and people made fun of him for that. He decided to get into shape, and he actually started out performing in musical bands playing bass guitar. And then he transitioned over the time to, of course, become the worldwide icon that is Hulk Hogan. So, again, thoughts and best wishes go out to his family, his colleagues, and his fans around the world tonight. Again, Hulk Hogan has passed away at the age of 71. Now we are looking up more closer to the BC and Western Canadian region, where three miners have been trapped underground, approximately 600 meters underground, since Tuesday morning. These miners are working at the Red Chris mine in northwestern British Columbia. The three were inside the mine when a collapse happened. At this time, it is estimated that the debris field is about 30 meters long and 8 meters high, trapping the miners. But they were able to get to an emergency spot where they do have provisions such as food, water, and an air supply. They also have several other areas close by that they can get to if they need more supplies. But at this time, there is a high tech rescue going on, or at least rescue attempts. They are using every possible resource to get these miners out and into safety. Now, they have been underground, as I said, since Tuesday morning. They do have the supply of food, water, and air. And unfortunately, with the second collapse in the mine, they have lost communication, but they are confident that the miners are safe as they were in one of the designated refuge areas. At this time, they are using drones and other technology to try and get in there and get as much debris out of the way and to start excavating. They have rescue workers from not only the Red Chris mine, but I understand they've brought in rescue workers from other mines throughout Western Canada as well. Now, they have been very strongly credited in terms of the rescue teams, and the reason for that is that they are viewed as some of the top rescue teams and miner teams in the world. So again, we like the fact that unfortunately other miners have lost their lives in the past, and that led to the safety specifications and the regulations that are in place now. And it's very important to understand that the legacy of those previous miners is what is keeping these ones alive at this time and giving them that protection and that chance at survival. So again, they do have quite an extensive supply of food, an extensive supply of water, and so far they have the air to breathe. So at this point, we don't believe that that there is any tragedy more so than them being trapped. At this time, we will, of course, follow that story and keep you updated on our various platforms as the information comes out. But right now, again, the rescue workers are working to rescue those three miners that are stuck in the mine at the Red Chris mine in northwestern British Columbia. The Premier, David Eby, has sent his best wishes out to the family of the miners trapped. Of course, this must be an extensively uh, concerning issue for them. If you can just imagine, and most of us can't, what it's like to know that your loved one is in a mine shaft that has collapsed and they are trapped underground at, as I said, about 600 meters underground. Now, again, other people have been reaching out and offering their thoughts and their prayers for the miners, for the families, and for the community. All operations at the mine have been put on hold, which we would expect at this point until the rescue is complete and an evaluation and review is completed on the cause of the collapse. This, of course, is a very dangerous industry, so it's not surprising that unfortunately these things do happen and it is a workplace hazard. Uh, Other than that, folks, it is a copper and gold mine, if you were wondering. But at this time, again, we don't know anything further than that. So if anything comes in during the show, we'll update you. But if not, we will definitely keep an eye on this story. Moving on now to Ontario, where 5 world hockey players have just been acquitted of sexual assault charges. The 5 players were accused 5 years ago of a sexual assault in London, Ontario, when they were playing for the World Juniors. At this time, the players have been acquitted of all charges in court today. However, with that happening, of course, there is still a lot of question about whether or not they will be able to return to play to whether it's the NHL level or any other level that is sanctioned by the NHL. The NHL is stating that they are reviewing the judge's order and the decision that was made today, but they've also went on record to state that even if deemed not criminal actions, that the accusations in themselves were very concerning. Now, this again is a big story in the world of hockey, but also about the in the world of rights of the victims and the whole attitude of, we'll just say, these types of assaults or violence within sport, and especially when it comes to high level athletes who may feel that they are able to get away with this sort of thing because of their fame and prestige. And again, they are junior hockey players, but it shows that there is a culture and a thought process at the younger age that they are able to get away with this. Now, those who were accused are Michael McLeod, Carter Hart, Alex Formenton, Dylan Dubé, and Cal Foote. Now, again, they were all found not guilty, and this incident, and I believe, my apologies, I said 5 years ago, it's actually been almost 7 years now, because the actual incident happened in London, Ontario in 2018, but the court case and the whole process has been going on for 5 years since the allegations were brought forward and the complaint filed and the investigation started. Now, the NHLPA, which is the Hockey Players Association, has come out in support of the players and stated that they should be able to go back to playing with their teams without delay. But again, that is a dispute that's going on between the NHLPA, the Players Association, and the NHL. They are also stating that the court's finding is inconsistent with the discipline procedures set out in the CBA. So that's the agreement that they have with the NHL and the other parties involved. The lawyer for the group has obviously come out and stated that they are pleased with the decision, but the victims' rights groups, as well as a lawyer for the accused, have come out to say that it is a tragic failure of the Canadian judicial system and that things need to be changed in order to make it better. So we'll have to watch and see if the players do get back to playing, or if they will be removed from the opportunities to play in the NHL at all and all junior levels going forward. Again, the allegations themselves are very concerning, and the NHL is not an organization that has let those things go very easily over the years. The NHL has a very strict code of conduct. this goes beyond the individual teams and actually brings forward a lot of the questions and the impropriety that the NHL really looks down upon and has removed very high profile players in the past for even less. So again, it's about the integrity of the organization and also of the other players within the organizations that come together to make up the National Hockey League. When we look at this in its totality, of course, we have to be fair and reasonable in terms of the fact that they have been acquitted of all charges, so found not guilty, but at the same time, whether or not the NHL offers further penalty or discipline, we'll have to watch and see. We'll again be watching that story as well as it unfolds. If there are any comments that you have, ladies and gentlemen, by all means, feel free to put them up in the chat room. And I am watching that. It seems to be fairly quiet for now. But also keep in mind that you can call in live on the show as of now. And you can call. The number is area code 368 997 6741. And as it's a new line dedicated just for this show, I haven't memorized the number yet. But again, feel free to call in, or you can use the same number on WhatsApp. And we're just going to go there and make sure that our WhatsApp is ready and up and running. And it looks like it is just backing up, or sorry, refreshing. So that's great. If you have anything you want to talk about, call in. And other than that, let's move forward with the show, ladies and gentlemen. I'm just going to make sure WhatsApp is active, and there we go. So again, the number is area code 368 997 6741. Feel free to call in or to throw your comments up in the text box here, the chat box. You can also text to this number or call in the same number for WhatsApp. Now, what we've all been waiting for, of course, is to talk about the one, the only, the legendary Ozzy Osbourne, who has passed away. We seem to have lost a number of celebrities in the last several days, which is really sad. But at the same time, Ozzy has had quite the struggle with various illnesses and ailments. And for his family, I think that there might be some solace in the fact that he is no longer suffering. He has had Parkinson's, he's had back surgeries that didn't quite take as he had hoped. And he even said that, he wishes that he could have gone back and said no to these surgeries that he's had. And that's really sad because it really limited his mobility, not only to get around, but just to do simple tasks. One of the things that was very important to Ozzy was the fact that he was able to have that goodbye performance only a few weeks ago with his original band, Black Sabbath. Now, they not only made an amazing concert event happen, but they also raised a record $190 million for Parkinson's research and for charitable organizations that deal with that. So again, congratulations on that. It was an amazing turnout, an amazing event online and on TV, wherever you were able to get it. But again, it raised an amazing amount of money. As we continue on the show tonight, just keep in mind that you too can help with, whether it's in Canada, the UK, and the US. You can reach out to your National Parkinson's Research Foundations or other Parkinson's associations, and you can always make a donation in Ozzy's name or in your own. But again, that is definitely an opportunity for you to do so. As we move on here, folks, let's just take a quick peek at a song before we get into the life, the legacy of the amazing Ozzy Osbourne. Yes, that is the legendary and world famous Ozzy Osbourne. Again, sad to state that he did pass away, but let's take a look at the life that was this amazing artist, amazing person. Now, there's a funny story if you've never heard it, and I did a little clip of online about it the other day, and it was kind of funny because Paul McCartney was such a hero to Ozzy Osbourne, him and all of the Beatles, actually, not just Paul, but Paul was really special to Ozzy, and he always had this passion that he needed to meet the Beatles. Like he just that was like he described it as meeting Paul McCartney would be like meeting Jesus for religious individuals. That's how much it meant to him. And when he finally had that opportunity to meet to meet Paul McCartney, outside the studios of the Howard Stern program. It was filmed and it's online. You can take a look. And he just was starstruck. He was in complete awe. And you could tell that he was so nervous to meet Sir Paul McCartney. And at that time, of course, Ozzy was big and well known in his own right, but he was so starstruck. You could see he was almost trembling. He was so nervous and scared at meeting Paul and saying the wrong thing. And I just thought that that really showed a genuine side of the reality that there's still people. They're still human with emotions and nerves. And, it really brought Ozzy down to a level, I think, with viewers that saw that to being just another human being. And everybody looks and has him on this pedestal, but that was a huge point in his life. Now, of course, Sir Paul McCartney was so gracious and compassionate and understanding of this, I'm sure he's used to people being just, you know, feeling like they're in the greatness of, the presence of greatness every time they meet him. But he came up and he actually addressed Ozzy, and Ozzy said, "Oh man, I got to tell you." He says, "This is such an honor." He's always wanted to meet Sir Paul McCartney. Like he says, "I always wanted to meet you, and you and the Beatles changed my life and are the reason I'm in music." And to that, Paul could see how nervous he was. So he made a joke about it being after Ozzy getting into music after his failed burglary career, and it's funny because that reference really brought Ozzy a lot of calmness and just calmed him a bit, saying, "Oh, he does know who I am. He knows more than just my music or just a passing name that, oh, this other artist wants to meet you." He actually knew about his history. And given that both Paul McCartney and Ozzy Osbourne grew up in working class England, in Birmingham for Ozzy, and that was post war. So it wasn't easy. Ozzy grew up in a very tough time and a tough situation because he was also dyslexic. He had a hard time in school and he dropped out at the age of 15. Now, after Ozzy dropped out of school, he had various jobs, and one of the ones I find hilarious is that he was a tuner for horns in a car factory. So he actually tuned the horns that went into cars when they were being manufactured. And I thought, I didn't realize that somebody actually did that. I didn't realize that was actually a job or a thing back then, and apparently it was. So yeah, that was one of Ozzy's jobs, and then he also worked at a slaughterhouse. But getting back to that story with Paul McCartney, what he referenced was that Ozzy also tried his hand tried his hand at burglary. Now, him and his buddies decided that it was a good idea to go and burglarize this clothing store. And they decide that they're going to wear gloves because, hey, they don't want to leave evidence behind. But the fingers were cut off of the gloves. So, of course, with that, they left fingerprints everywhere. And yeah, it only took a few weeks before they were arrested and charged and convicted for this burglary at the clothing store. Now, with that said, Ozzy turned around and hoped that his father would bail him out and pay the fine that he was issued. If he paid the fine, he didn't have to go to prison. Now, his father said no. I'm not, and he said it quite bluntly with the words we won't use here, but his father just refused to pay the fine. And it wasn't to be mean or cold hearted, it was because he wanted Ozzy to understand that all actions have consequences. And he wanted him to realize that it was time to grow up and do something different. If he wasn't going to be at school, he had to do something productive and contributing to society, not taking away from it. And that seemed to work because Ozzy spent 6 weeks in a jail, in a prison there in the UK. And when he got out, he said, "Yeah, no, I suck at this burglary thing. I am a horrible criminal, and I don't think I will do that." So his father's lesson definitely, worked for Ozzy and brought him forward in life. And that's when Ozzy started to look at other things and different things that he could do. Now, his father always said, "Ozzy, you're going to either do something really special with your life or you're going to end up in prison for the most of it." And his father was right. He turned around and did something amazingly special that he shared with the entire world. And that was, of course, music. Now, as the story goes, as Ozzy was having that challenging time and trying to work through what he wanted to do with his life, he heard John Lennon and the Beatles, and he heard the song "She Loves You," and he says that it was a defining moment in his life. It was like an epiphany. He went. He also described it as if you were looking at the world in black and white every day of your life. You could only see it in black and white. But then all of a sudden, you go to bed one night and you wake up, and the whole world is full of color, and you can see the color again, or for the first time. And he said that was what the impact of hearing that Beatles song had on him. It was life altering. He decided that he really wanted to do something within the music industry. He bought himself an old amp and a guitar and tried to play and teach himself, but he really started to belt out the vocals. And then he joined Black Sabbath, and you know history was made from there as they grew. And so, just a funny story though, that it just shows that there is that point where it was just a silly thing, but it really changed his life in terms of the robbery. So right now, I'm actually going to pull up for you that clip that's online of Sir Paul McCartney meeting Ozzy for the very first time. So let's take a look at that together. If you haven't seen it, you can just watch and see how nervous that Ozzy is at meeting his hero. And again, he described it as, for some, if they met Jesus, that's how he felt meeting Paul McCartney. So let's take a look at that video. So there you go. You can see how utterly just the nerves that were rocking Ozzy at that moment when he met his idol. So again, it was pretty cool. But you also notice that afterwards, Ozzy was so nervous that he was in a rush to get out of there. And instead, Paul brought him back and just really showed a moment of just compassion, I would call it, and respect for Ozzy, calling him back to take a photo with him and to really commemorate that moment in time. And for this video to still be out there, it just really shows how much the world is still interested in both Paul McCartney, of course, and Ozzy, and how it shows a real human side of both of these music icons. So again, I just thought I would share that with you because I thought that it was pretty amazing. So again, let's take a look at a few of the other icons and individuals who have been putting up different videos on social media. So bear with me a moment. I will pull that up and we're going to take a look at a few of the others who have put up tributes to Ozzy and shared their messages, of course, of loss, of sorrow, but also just really celebrating the life and the legacy of that powerful, history of music that Ozzy has created, along with, of course, Black Sabbath and with the Ozzy Osbourne band. So again, it is really amazing to see how many people are out there that have really poured out, whether it's fans, whether it's other musicians, and all of that. So let's go to sorry, bear with me. Let's pull up, okay, let's go with this 2024 induction ceremony for a quick view here. And this was when they inducted them into. So again, we can only play a certain amount of each of the clips there for legal reasons and, of course, copyright reasons. So we can't bring everything to you. But again, just to give you a flavor of some of the amazing tributes that have been pouring in for Ozzy from different people around the world. Again, Sir Paul McCartney did come out and make a statement really honoring the life and the contribution to the music industry. And we also know, of course, that Coldplay has honored him in a very emotional tribute as well. Pearl Jam, Elton John, Youngblood, just so many have been out there just really just putting their hearts on their sleeve and really calling out the impact that Ozzy had, not only on the music industry, but on them as well as musicians, as members of an industry that sometimes can be a little crazy, and we'll just leave it at that because I could say much worse about the industry, but we'll leave it at that. But let's also take a look at another tribute here that was online, and this one comes on X. So again, I'm just going to change that up a bit. And this is Tony Iommi from, of course, Black Sabbath. It's paying tribute here. So let's just rewind this a bit, make sure you can hear it. Oh, there we go. I just got a message here. For some reason, the videos are not showing in no volume. So I don't know what's going on with the screen share here, folks. So we will just forgo the videos there and we'll just continue on with the tribute and we'll talk about the life and the impact that Ozzy has and legacy that he's leaving behind. So again, apparently there's an audio issue with our videos going through, so that's okay. We'll work that out over time, but for now, it's not a big deal. Let's continue on talking about Ozzy. Now let's go back to the beginning. Of course, we're going to gather here online. You can contact us via telephone to join the conversation at area code 368 997 6741. The same number on WhatsApp, or use, of course, the chat option in the stream here. So you can always use the chat option to interact as well. Share your thoughts on Ozzy, your memories, all of that. And of course, we know the Prince of Darkness is no longer with us. Let's take a look. Sorry, folks, bear with me a moment here. There we go. A message from Frank Thorne. Sorry, when we were young, we all listened to the words of the songs. Now, many years later, we don't listen to the words because our memories play in our minds of where we were and what we were doing when the song came out. So, music is all of our time machine. That's why we react to musicians passing. Yes, it does. It really triggers an emotion within us, and more than any other sense of media, whether it is television, whether it is newspapers, photos, whatever. Music is very, very powerful. I mean, I can't remember half the time where I put something, but a song comes on I haven't heard in 30 years, and it's like I was right there, still remembering the lyrics, and it's amazing how that can trigger emotion, how it can trigger endorphins within our brain and different chemical releases. It can bring us to a point of a low, or it can take us from a low to a high in just a split moment, depending on the references that each person has with the music. Now, when you look at the power of music, of course, it is one of the most enduring uh, ways of communicating, whether it is um, through languages, through cultures, all of that. Music can be understood. I don't understand certain lyrics in certain songs that are maybe Spanish or Hindi or, Punjabi, whatever. But there's a rhythm, there's a beat, and you can really feel the emotion of the music, and you really can sense that. And I've worked in music production. I've written songs. I have worked very hard in that as well. And I have a lot of friends that are musicians. And it's all about the emotion, about the storytelling. And that is a very big thing. And I've worked in, producing in studios such as Brian Adams's Warehouse Studios and Mushroom Studios, and several others in the Metro Vancouver area that some of the biggest artists have recorded in. And it's not about the environment necessarily, it's about the emotion. And that's why when you listen to music, as our viewer was saying, is that you feel that emotion and it transfers you in a time machine back to that time or that era or that experience. And I mean, it can remind you of the birth of a child. It can remind you of being, 12 years old and riding a bike with your friends on a track with the big boom box blaring in the background. I mean, or maybe those who were breakdancing back in the 80s. It's amazing how it can transform a whole mood or a whole emotion or a whole environment at that. But again, we're looking at that extraordinary life and legacy of a figure who transcended music to become a global cultural icon. And he was born John Michael Osbourne, universally now, of course, known for many years, of course, and decades as Ozzy Osbourne. Now, we know that he passed away just days ago, but he has been suffering for quite some time. And regardless, as we were just discussing, it resonates deeply and it's transforming uh, the whole world as we look at some of our heroes in music and entertainment that we've been losing. And let's face it, we know Malcolm Jamal Warner passed recently, and he was not up there in age. That was a tragic accident that I believe was Costa Rica, where he was caught in a wave and rogue wave that washed him out, and he drowned. And that's just untimely. But we see individuals like Ozzy Osbourne and Hulk Hogan, and I think that in a sense that actually really drives deep our own life expectancy. We know that we're getting older, but we don't want to admit it. We want to think that we're still, young at heart, and it really makes us have to face our own mortality when we start to see those that we idolized passing away I'm not going to say that Ozzy or Hulk were old, but they were they were very experienced in life, and it's a tragic loss, but it also, as I said, it reminds us of our own mortality, and I think that also plays a role in why we feel the loss of celebrities so deeply. Now, we look up at them, they're bigger than life, they're larger than life, and it really it's tough sometimes to watch them pass, but it's even tougher to see them suffer. And that is something I hope that everybody can really find peace with, is that he's not suffering anymore. He's at peace. And, as I said to my brother earlier today, I said, I think Ozzy wanted a bodyguard, so he decided to take Hogan with him to hang out and have some fun. Now, the proximity to his departure just really brings the discussion with a raw collective sense of remembrance. And I hope that you have great memories of Ozzy and Black Sabbath and all of the music that really we grew up on at my age. But even other generations have grown up listening to him as well, because it transcended the generational gap. Unlike, you know, unlike a lot of musicians. I mean, let's face it, not a lot of musicians can have that real impact that Ozzy had, and he was one of the original bad boys of the rock industry, and really brought forward the heavy metal scene, and that is just an incredible feat of the impact he had on an entire genre of music. So yeah, thank you, Frank Thon, for watching. Appreciate that. And others, again, if you want to join the conversation, dial area code 368-997-6741. You can also text that line as well. And you can also just put comments up in the chat section. By all means, you're more than welcome to participate in this conversation, because it's all about us coming together to remember a legend. Now, of course, we know Ozzy cultivated a rebellious shock rock persona, earning him the moniker the Prince of Darkness. And you could almost say that he brought that himself. Now, there was the time that people were just beside themselves because he bit the head off of a bat. And I believe that was in Ohio, if I'm not mistaken. But what most people didn't realize, that it wasn't a staged event in terms of the bat itself. People used to throw crap up on the stage when he was performing, and he thought it was a rubber bat, so he thought it would be funny to bite the head off of it on stage. But after he did so, that is when he realized that it was a live bat, and it was only after somebody else in the band was telling him that's a live bat. And of course, now he has already done it, and it in some ways actually helped his following, because he really became that bad boy that the industry wanted. And I think at the time it was the celebrity and the icon of rebellion, of a youth uh, that was pissed off with what was going on in the world, and this really gave him a real raw um, sense of somebody understanding them and understanding their anger and their frustration, and really bringing it to a stage persona. So I think that that really played into that and helped him with the success and with the boom of literally the boom of Black Sabbath. So again, when the guys got together and joined and played for many, many years, and then they actually kicked Ozzy out of the band. And some people may not realize that's what happened. And it was because of Ozzy's just his insane behavior and his lack of control when it came to whether it was drugs or alcohol, all of these things. And Ozzy had a really serious addiction issue, and that was damaging the band, the performances, and the band just wanted to protect the legacy and the music, and they finally kicked Ozzy out of the band. Now, of course, ever since that time, they have reconciled. Ozzy got help, but it was because of Sharon Osbourne. That's his wife that really, after he was kicked out of the band, she brought him back to reality, back to life. And Ozzy very openly credits her with saving his life. That she is the one that brought him out of that place where he probably wouldn't have gotten out by himself. He probably would have succumbed to that. And so when she stuck by him and she brought him back from the edge there and brought him back to the world of the living, so we say, she was more than a manager. They fell in love, they married, and Ozzy put Sharon through hell over the years. And that's no secret. I mean, even Ozzy was there to admit that she should have either buried him or at least left him many times over. But she stuck by him. And I think that that is a real testament to her dedication to him and his love for her, regardless as to what was going on. I think that there just was that connection, that true sense that they were soulmates and they belonged together and they were dedicated to each other even in the rough times. And there's a lot of marriages that couldn't have weathered even a fraction of what they went through. And I mean, you've got to look at it. It definitely wasn't easy. But again, it was something that they did. They got through it, they got past it, and they are one of the longest relationships in Hollywood or in the industry when you look at it from that regard. So again, it's just it's tough on family, it's tough on relationships to be on the road all the time, to be traveling, to have that certain lifestyle. And then, of course, there's all of the pressures of the rock and roll lifestyle, especially back during that era, in terms of the drinking, the partying, the groupies, all of that. So it was a tough time. Now, as I said, he had low paying jobs back as he was growing up in Birmingham, and he made his way through it. And I still laugh, as I said earlier, I still can't believe that that he was a horn tuner in a car factory. That just blows my mind, and no pun intended. But as I said, also about him serving that 6 weeks in prison, that's actually where he got the Aussie tattoo on his knuckles. So if you now, when you see all of that, those were actually jailhouse lettering in the tattoo on his knuckles that said Aussie. So again, it was very interesting. Now, after his release from prison, he actually was quoted as saying to his father, excuse the language, but he says, fucking hell, I want to meet a Beatle. And that was after he heard that song. And his father recognized that ambition and actually supported him in purchasing a Vox PA system and a microphone. And Ozzy repaid that later, but regretted not doing more for his father, who passed away in 1977. That was very tough for him. His father was there and really helped him and supported him. And even though his father may not have understood the music, he knew that Ozzy had something special inside of him and recognized it and tried to really push Ozzy to find it for himself because he was lost. He was struggling. And yeah, sometimes, your father knows you better than you know yourself and really wants to you think it's tough love or that he's being a hard ass, but at the same time he's trying to push you to what he knows you can achieve. even if you don't believe it yourself. So, again, I mean, it was not an easy thing. And you can see that through his music that even though it may be seen as dark, the lyrics and the way that Ozzy, even though he didn't really play an instrument, he was more just a singer and creator. But the way that he was able to bring the song and the experience together to make these albums with such emotion and such an impact, really, you can say what you want about Ozzy, but that was genius in terms of how he was able to do it. And you've also got to remember that at that time, it was really a time of, an era of hippies, of free love, of, all of that stuff. So when Ozzy and Black Sabbath hit this scene and they were just so raw and dark and, it was, again, as I said, I think that it really reflected what was going on in the world at that time and had that real impact. Now, if we take a look at that, their self debut was famously recorded in a single session in 1969. And that was, like tolling a bell in thunderstorm. It really was a challenge, but they got it done and made it happen. And then when you look at the next one in 1970 was when they released Paranoid. And that was also recorded with remarkable speed and solidified their groundbreaking sound, such as Iron Man and the powerful or anti-war anthem War Pigs. And really, if you haven't heard War Pigs, you've got to hear it because it has such a deep meaning and it's appeared in so many movies that of course it's hard for anybody to say they've never heard it, even if you don't recognize that by name. If you heard this song, of course you would know what it was. So let's just go ahead and bring that up here, and I'll of course it isn't working for sound, so I will just turn it up, see if the mic maybe can just pick it up for a moment there. We'll give that a shot here. So let's give that a try, see if I can. Again, hopefully you can at least hear that in the background. Uh, there we go. So yeah, hopefully you can hear that in the background at least. But again, he just really didn't care what people said. He didn't care what people, thought of him. He was just there to put on his show and to do his performance. And if you didn't like it, then too bad. And that was just the way it was because they represented a time, an era, and a audience that maybe, of course, you didn't see with maybe the Beatles or others who, just were after a different audience altogether. But again, it was just amazing. So someone pointed out that he's a living legend, and I was just looking at that comment. I believe was actually in relation to Hulk Hogan, who passed away again, but as we talked about earlier. But let's get back to Ozzy here. So as I said, this pioneering music really proved immensely influential and it laid the foundation for a lot of other bands, whether that is Metallica, Iron Maiden, Judas Priest. I mean, there's so many that really would honestly tell you that they were impacted by Ozzy's music almost as much as Ozzy was impacted and influenced by the Beatles to get into the music. A totally different genre and different style, but again, it really worked for him and for the band. So, despite a lot of the persistent rumors, though, about the Satanism and the black magic and all of that, And he really, it was a persona on stage. It wasn't what Ozzy was about personally. And that really, I think, in many ways, uh, gave him his escape when he was on the stage, when he was creating new music, when he was really within his creative element. But at the same time, when he was asked once about the black magic and the Satanism, and his famous quote was insisting that the only black magic we ever got into was a box of chocolates. If you don't know, black magic is a is a brand of chocolates. So again, it was just how he responded to that. And Geezer Butler from the band also clarified that Black Sabbath were not devil worshippers or practitioners of witchcraft. And, a lot of people still believe that they were, but they tried very much to separate themselves from that belief because I think that it had a big impact on them emotionally at times where they were really the epitome of maybe the parents of the generation or politicians and others that they directed everything that's wrong with society at the music of Ozzy Osbourne and those that followed afterwards. I know when I was growing up, people had this hate on for heavy metal, whether it was Ozzy, whether it was Metallica, whether it was Judas Priest, or others, just plain and simple that, it just was an unfair, I believe, an unfair label that they put on them. They were representing a brand, a character. You can look at it in all of those regards. But at the end of the day, I think that you have to understand that it is entertainment, and there's a big difference between entertainment and reality in life. And yeah, that's all I really think I need to say about that part. Now, keeping in mind that Osborne's vocals were described as urgent, real, honest, they conveyed so much raw soul and emotion that I think that really also connected with people. When you combine that with Tony Lamy, the riff master, as they call him, and then of course, you can look at the fact that he was really inspired by gypsy jazz and guitarist Django Reinhardt. And, so that was after a factory injury that he got that inspiration. So again, he was recognized for his melodic bass playing and the way that he pioneered the use of the wah pedal and his poignant lyric writing. I mean, the whole band was just phenomenal. And the way that they impacted the world will never go unnoticed. And then, of course, you combine in there Bill Ward. Bill Ward's drumming was heavily influenced by the 1940s big band jazz drummers. And that really came across in a lot of the songs. It was a totally different genre, but at the same time, you can listen to it if you try to isolate some of the drum playing, and you can almost feel that rhythm or that sense of transformation from another era. And you really see how that combined with the rest of the magic that was Black Sabbath and brought it all forward. So again, you could tell that there was some influence there. Now, of course, we know that the lifestyle excesses of being on the tours of, all of that has a huge impact. And it, of course, had a huge impact on many in the industry outside of Black Sabbath as well. But at the end of the day, let's not forget that Ozzy was just himself. He didn't pretend to be something he's not. As I said, he said that it was like, dressing up for Halloween every time he went on stage, or that he had this persona and this image. But at the same time, he just was himself in terms of the fact that he wasn't trying to be something. He wasn't trying to be somebody else. He wasn't trying to follow in the footsteps of other musicians and repeating what they've already been doing. He went and he pioneered heavy metal. For that, we've all been fortunate to share in the world of Ozzy Osbourne. He opened the door through his reality series and the world to his family and his life. And I think that through that we got a sense of another side of Ozzy that he may have been a little wild, we could say, But at the same time, you could really see that true emotion, that true love that he had for his children and for Sharon, and the true desire that he had for his children to do better than he did. And that's what every parent wants. You want to see your children succeed. You want to see them do better than you. You don't want to see them in the same position you are. You want them to do better. And that's all about creating the next generation and leaving a legacy. And that's something that Ozzy has done. He has left a legacy that very few people in the history of music or in the history of the world have ever been able to say that they have done. So, one of my favorite songs is Changes. And of course, we know that that was an amazing song that came out. And it's one that we'll always remember Ozzy Osbourne for. Once again, as he's home and with his mother, father, and others, I would sure hope. Okay. We close off this week's show, folks. I appreciate you tuning in. Thank you for joining us. By all means, if you're watching the rebroadcast, leave your thoughts in the messages below. Let us know what song was your favorite from Ozzy. Let us know what you were doing or how old you were when you first got introduced to the music of Black Sabbath and Ozzy Osbourne. And yeah, by all means, send your messages, share with us, and take part in the conversation. Once again, you're watching Primetime Live here on Jess FM and Jess TV, coming from Lethbridge, Alberta, Canada. But again, thank you everybody for tuning in. Take care, stay safe, and we'll see you next Thursday at 8 p.m. Mountain Standard Time.